Brian Friedman making those statements to the media, trying to, as Blake Lively's attorneys would explain it, trying to potentially taint the jury pool by making these out of comments. What happened now is that the judge was actually pretty reluctant, to kind of issue a Rule 3.6. And from your clarification, Jesse, during that commercial break, that was more so just about ethics, but it was kind of interesting in the sense that it was a lot of back and forth inside that courtroom. So, as far as every statement that was made by Blake Lively and Ryan Reynolds' attorney, it was always countered by Justin Baldoni's attorneys. Well, they started it first. They began this first. Had this not happened.
What happens when someone claims they have all the evidence in the world, but then can't produce a single shred of it in court? Blake Lively's legal gamble is crumbling fast, and Justin Baldoni's team is striking at the perfect time. Deadlines are closing in, the judge is getting restless, and the supposed mountain of proof looks more like a pile of receipts from Starbucks. Stay tuned, because this is the moment where overconfidence meets reality in the courtroom.
No, not necessarily. So what's going to happen now is that the judge was actually pretty reluctant, to kind of issue a Rule 3.6. And from your clarification, Jesse, during that commercial break, that was more so just about ethics. No, unfortunately for our viewers, there was no Justin Baldoni, there was no Blake Lively, there was no Ryan Reynolds or any other family members, as far as I could tell from being inside that courtroom.
What exactly happened with the protective order? The big conversation was whether or not Brian Friedman, or let alone any other attorneys, how much they can litigate this case in the public, what out-of-court statements can they make.
Before we move on, I'd like to ask you a small favor. If you appreciate this content, please take a second to like this video and subscribe to the channel. Over 98% of you watch the videos without subscribing. It costs you nothing, but it makes a huge difference to us. So did you click the subscribe button? Great, thank you so much. Now back to the video.
This wouldn't be an issue right now. So I think on their side, them being the Baldoni team, they're just kind of playing defense, right? Like, all of this started back in August, as far as we can tell. Honestly, all of it started back on that set of It Ends With Us, but go into effect so that way, as far as ethics goes. And this was something actually Baldoni's team wanted. They encouraged it. They came out here during that press conference and were actually pleased by the way that the hearing went. And so I think that a lot of things as far as going forward now, but it's a bunch of he said, she said, but the judge kind of wanted to stop the he said, she said. And as far as kind of making these statements out to the media, again, that Rule 3.6.
Imagine going into a duel and bragging you've got a loaded weapon, but when it's time to fire, all that comes out is a harmless stream of water. That's exactly the spot Blake Lively has put herself in. She strutted into this courtroom drama claiming she had an arsenal of proof, but right now her so-called evidence looks about as threatening as a super soaker on a summer day.
Might be a lot lesser than it was before, but look, that website is still up and running. I actually saw the website on Friday when it had first launched, and I think that was also a big issue from Blake Lively's team, is that because they kind of explained that this was all their side of the story. This was one-sided, but when you have receipts, proofs, timeline, facts, text messages, all this stuff, they were okay with the website going up as far as the amended complaint goes. Now, when it came to that timeline, they actually wanted that timeline to be incorporated with the complaint as far as going into that paragraph 4.
The problem isn't just the emptiness of her claims, it's the timing. She only has 5 days left before the window shuts to issue subpoenas freely. After that, the rules get a whole lot tighter, and once the door closes, she can't fling papers around the way she's been doing. Courts don't exactly hand out do-overs, and when that window closes, good luck convincing a judge to extend it just because you wasted time earlier. Here's where things get wild. Instead of carefully targeting her subpoenas like precision darts, she sprayed them everywhere. We're talking 107 subpoenas dumped into the world, chasing YouTubers, creators, random voices on social media, anyone she thought might back her up. But every single one of them turned up empty. Not one gave her what she promised the court she already had. Think about that. She stood in front of cameras, basically claiming she possessed all the evidence. Yet when it came down to filling the docket, nothing showed up. If this was a restaurant order, she promised a 10-course meal and then handed over an empty takeout bag.
Everyone across the board is claiming, with their respective parties, that they have been either emotionally or financially damaged by everything that's going on, before they're getting called for this case. And that, of course, we know that the trial is going to be slated for next year. They're going to keep that date of next year, even though the judge kind of mentioned a little bit that he might be interested in pushing that date forward, because it seems like everyone across the board just wants a resolve.
Contrast between her loud words in the media and the actual paper trail in the courtroom couldn't be starker. In interviews and posts, she talked herself up as if she had this devastating file locked and ready to drop. But in the legal record, which is the only place that actually matters, the shelves are bare. There's no secret folder, no persuasive documents, just a pile of paperwork that burned through cash and court time. Her case is starting to look less like a strategy and more like performance art, except the audience member she needs to impress, the judge, isn't laughing. It's almost like she became her own version of Icarus. In her rush toward publicity, she flew too close to the spotlight. She thought her boasting would make her untouchable, but the higher she soared, the more obvious it became that there was no wax holding the wings together. And now, instead of gliding to victory, she's falling headfirst into a procedural mess. If she had built her case quietly and methodically, maybe nobody would notice how fragile it was. But once she shouted about proof that doesn't exist, every false step became embarrassing in public view. Think of her 107 subpoenas as a giant fishing net cast across the ocean. She must have thought she would drag up some huge catch, a shark, or at least a few big fish, but instead all she pulled up was seaweed and a few old boots. That doesn't just stink, it's useless. The net is broken, the boat is sinking money, and her crew is starting to question whether they're even on the right waters. And unlike fishing, where you shrug and try again tomorrow, in court you don't get another sale if you waste your cast. Time and credibility don't grow back overnight. The most painful part for her isn't just the waste of effort, it's how the judge now sees her. Judges already get grumpy with parties who bury them in unnecessary filings, and when you add in personal jabs and sloppy paperwork, it's a recipe for losing patience fast. A judge can only tolerate so many theatrics before thinking about sanctions or contempt warnings. Public insults and scattershot subpoenas aren't just frowned upon, they're a direct insult to the process. And once the judge starts seeing you as someone who abuses procedure rather than follows it, your chances of being taken seriously collapse. So here she is, out of tricks, with no smoking gun, and cornered by the very rules she thought she could bend. All those subpoenas did was waste money, annoy the court, and expose that she never had what she claimed to begin with. The clock is ticking, the court is watching, and Baldoni's team is sitting across the table, making notes, ready to strike. They don't even have to do anything dramatic. Like a chess master, they simply wait for the piece to move itself into checkmate. And right now, Blake is doing all the moving for them. Like Icarus, Blake wasn't brought down by enemies, but by her own loud mouth. She climbed high on bragging rights, promised endless proof, and now the wings are melting because there's nothing behind it. Arrogance in court is like flying too close to the sun. It looks bold until gravity kicks in. So what do you think? Did Baldoni's team set the cleverest trap, or did Blake just trip over herself? Drop your thoughts below and let's hear it. Because in court, confidence without receipts is just background noise, and sometimes that noise is the sound of your own defeat.